Hello, welcome back to the Level 1 show. Today is August 10th, and we're doing business and social news.
August is rapidly melting, and this is unacceptable.
We gotta do a podcast.
Although I think we hit the threshold for no more hottest days of the year, right? Should be all lower temperatures from here on out.
We're supposed to have a really rainy late summer and fall, so look forward to that.
Yeah, that checks out. Have you watched the news?
Yes.
Very rainy in this area.
But Chris Bailey released his 3-month forecast, and he thinks that we're going to have a rainy fall.
Yeah.
I trust Chris Bailey.
Did he use his crystal ball?
He did. We're an El Nino pattern.
Who does Chris Bailey use for internet access?
I have no idea.
Wow. If you're a real fan would know.
And I would send pizzas to his house.
Do you think he has a mobile weather van with Starlink?
No.
He should.
No, he works from the studio.
He should get that. Oh, wow. Is he even a meteorologist? So, some people now may be living the dream of van life with a Starlink satellite. And it's great. And it's so good that the government said, hey, you know what, guys? We want people who actually bring broadband to people and not just promise it to be rewarded. So we're going to give you some of this money. But there's a lot of questions about that money. One of the biggest one being Mr. Ajit Pai being mixed up in it. And oh boy, are they looking to erase everything that he did.
SpaceX and Viasat fight over whether Starlink can meet FCC speed obligations. Starlink are still trying to get the $886 million in FCC funds awarded by Ajit Pai in 2020. So the breakdown for this is actually more interesting than what Ars Technica has, but the short version is that Viasat is complaining because in order to get the money, Starlink has to offer 100 meg down by 20 meg up. And you can get that with Starlink, but there haven't been enough satellites in orbit and the technology hasn't quite been there to deliver that. But the more satellites that go up, they get the laser link online, the more that they're able to do that. And certainly there are Starlink customers that can get 100 meg down and 20 meg up, but not every customer can get 100 meg down and 20 meg up. And so Starlink is saying, this is just Viasat because Viasat's technology is inferior and they didn't invest in it. And there's probably some truth to that.
Yeah.
But also, Elon Musk may be overstating what they're doing a little bit.
I'm sure that there are documents somewhere where he said under oath, yes, we will hit those speeds every time.
Full self-driving.
Don't even worry. That will absolutely be a thing. We'll definitely do that.
It is coming true, but it was not true, in the first year of Starlink deployment. And now, for the time that we're in, maybe you can get those kind of speeds. Do you have Starlink engagement challenge? What kind of speeds are you getting from speed tests? Are you getting 100/20? Should be easy to tell. A lot of our audience actually does have Starlink.
But that probably shouldn't be the question. The question should be, if you're one of these people, would you rather have Viasat?
No.
No one would say that.
Yeah.
Viasat is dead man walking as far as satellite internet providers go because they didn't invest in their infrastructure. It's like DSL. It's like the DSL provider complaining about the fiber optic line. It's like, oh, they ran the fiber optic line. Boo-hoo.
One thing about Musk, you can't say that he's not investing in infrastructure.
Yeah.
People are pissed that he's launching too many satellites. So.
And he wouldn't have to launch any satellites if they'd taken the money from the 90s and run the damn fiber.
Well, we've got an interesting Supreme Court issue coming up, and the big tech companies are weighing in on it because why would they be doing this? Oh, right, cheap labor.
Yeah. Amazon, GE, and other U.S. companies asked the Supreme Court to uphold affirmative action. Affirmative action is for building diversity, but building diversity in a tech company, it's taken on a slightly different meaning.
I think it's for building H-1B employees.
Because they're cheaper. And they don't require as many rights.
Gosh darn it, there's not enough American females applying for this programmer position. Let's import some from another country.
Also, that argument falls completely apart. I realize this is a hot topic, but that argument falls completely apart when you start talking to Asian people. Because it is so unfair. Because they tell the Asian people, they're like, look, we're a minority. Look at the numbers. And they're like, yeah, but you're really good at it. And that's not allowed.
Sorry. Engagement challenge. Asian people in our audience. Comment below. Are we wrong? We're not wrong.
How dare you get these kinds of grades? Don't you know that people are suffering? Here's a great leak, because when you get these leaks, these internal communications, oh boy, I just cannot imagine. If I was a CEO in a big company and somebody sent me one of these emails, I'd be like,
I didn't see this.
yeah. I would call them, but I wouldn't say anything on the phone. I'd be like, we need to have lunch right now. And they'd be like, it's 8 p.m. Lunch right now. Never send me that. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Because this always happens.
Exclusive inside Amazon's plan to quote unquote neutralize powerful unions by hiring ex-inmates and vulnerable students. Leaked memo reveals the tech giant's plans to combat the Teamsters in California.
Are we the baddies?
Now, what the Teamsters don't realize is that Amazon is not required to do business with them. Do you think that it would really be hard for Amazon to search their database and figure out who the Teamsters are? Hope you enjoy never receiving a package from Amazon ever again.
I'm trying to find the name of the people they wanted to hook up with to try and get that minority support so that it would look good. But my favorite, I've never heard of this place before, but it was, here they are. These are the
Anti-Recidivism Coalition.
But
Homeboy
the second
Industries.
one, Homeboy Industries. That's my favorite one. And DeFi Ventures. So what these are looking to take people who have criminal records, get them back into the workforce.
Right.
Now, they were planning this internally, and they were kicking the ball back and forth. It was like, well, it could be a security risk. What about insurance? And somebody was like, what about the drug screening policy? And if you'll recall, right after that, got rid of the marijuana requirement on the drug screens. That was anti-union. They did that because it was anti-union. That's amazing.
Wow.
That's such a butterfly effect. Now here, think about this, right? We got TV and everybody loved it. And it was cheap and everybody watched it. Sometimes it was just over the air. You didn't pay anything. It was great. And then cable came. And then they started consolidating these giant cable packages. And you couldn't opt out. The package just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the price kept going up. And you were like, I don't want home and garden TV.
Well, no, see, it's weirder than that. Cable TV initially was rebroadcasting wireless. And the outfits that broadcast wireless TV sued cable providers and lost. Under the law at the time, that was completely okay. The Supreme Court said, no, cable TV providers are doing a public good, sending over-the-air signals where over-the-air can't happen. Oh, how the tables have turned.
And then people said, okay, give us a la carte. I will pay you per channel, and I will choose the channels that I want. And they were like, no.
It's too lucrative.
Insane? Well, and so now think about all of that. Think about that timeline, and look at what's happening in streaming.
HBO Max and Discovery Plus to merge into a single streaming platform starting in summer 2023.
Who approved this?
The shareholders of HBO Max. Actually, I think that's pending.
I was thinking lawmakers, right?
They don't have to. I mean, well, one of the organizations could flag it and do an investigation. I don't know if they're going to.
Thank goodness I've had a Myth TV robot recording decades of television.
Discovery owns a staggering amount these days too.
Yeah,
they're getting like in Disney territory.
I think piracy is going to come back in a big way. Not that it ever left for some of us.
I don't know where
Deep Space Nine has gone from Netflix. I'm now in the process of trying to build a Netflix-like interface for Mom so that I can finally cancel Netflix.
Full of legally acquired shows, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's all over the air. I mean, I've literally my Star Trek was literally captured from HD broadcasts.
You better be careful about that, because it could be like Tony Soprano. that's what gets you.
Yeah. It was the taxes. You mean Al Capone? It's like, no.
Tony Soprano gave his mom he got mad at her and he wanted her to leave and move to another part of the country, so he gave her a stolen airline ticket, and that burned him. Luckily, she died. Spoiler alert.
For a show that's been off the air for
Oh, but it's so good. I can't believe you guys never watched that.
No, I've never watched it. I've heard it's great.
It's incredible.
I'll have to check the archives. Maybe I have it and don't realize.
Oh, that special directory that Strange New Worlds showed up in?
Mm-hmm.
It could show up there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. That'd be great.
Now, General Motors, they took a different approach than Tesla. Tesla said full self-driving. And what they did with that is that they lied. terribly,
A lot.
overwhelmingly, and they got a lot of people hurt and killed. Now
Continue
GM
to get a lot of people hurt and killed.
GM took a look at that and they're like, we probably shouldn't do that. Let's dumb ours down a little bit and make it better over time.
GM is doubling the size of its Super Cruise network in the US and Canada, and they're now going to call it Ultra Cruise. What does it take to do Super Cruise? Well, they scan LiDAR, so like millimeter accuracy details of the roads, and that's how the thing drives. Now, previously, it would only work on divided highways, so it doesn't have to contend with oncoming traffic. With this new update, it's going to be able to contend with oncoming traffic to an extent. So basically, interstate and highway driving, you're going to be okay with the GM thing.
They really filled in the blanks over here. West Coast, not so much, but I guess it's just not as populous.
Yeah, that's all, quote unquote, flyover country.
It won't just be like big 4-lane interstates now. There'll also be some non-divided roads, which is a lot more terrifying, honestly. I don't know how I feel about that. When you see, I know Cadillacs have it. Do the big SUVs have it from GM now?
I think so.
We should get a list of those. And you know what a great augmented reality app would be? Show me every car that's capable of Super Cruise so I can be more vigilant when I see them coming at me.
There's just a blinking icon over it in your augmented reality dashboard.
Now we found out that Intel or Apple was removing the final Intel piece out of, was it the
Thunderbolt?
Wasn't one of the MacBooks like that too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're going to start using all their own stuff. And Intel's like, yeah, well, guess what? You're not going to get
Wi-Fi 7. Intel's going to introduce Wi-Fi 7 in 2024 as Apple plans to imminent move to Wi-Fi 6E. Yeah, Apple devices are just getting Wi-Fi 6E. So much for being on the bleeding edge. Oh, my Apple device. No, it's just garbage. Wi-Fi 7 is going to be even faster. It's going to use the 6 gigahertz band. So that's fun. It's going to interfere with some old equipment, maybe. That's part of the reason for the delay. Some old phones. So that's fun times.
Time to upgrade. Now imagine that let's think into the future, right? You're living in your pod, right? You're sitting there in your pod. You're eating your bugs and rice, which was given to you by the
I got
government.
rice today.
Yeah, well, it's Friday. And you're going to do some gaming. Now, of course, you won't be gaming on a PC. Come on. No, that doesn't fit in the pod at all. But maybe, just maybe, your Raspberry Pi will squeeze out some Android games.
Raspberry Pi 4 expands its 3D potential with a Vulkan update. Developers of Android games get more robust access to the GPU. Mostly this will probably just benefit you if you're trying to run Android on a Raspberry Pi 4. Raspberry Pi 4 is still pretty anemic.
And all the interface and everything will still be OpenGL, so no speed up there. But listen, when you're in the pod, look, do you want to play Pixel Dungeon in the pod or not?
Well, I mean,
It's better than just staring up at the ceiling of the pod the whole time.
Yeah.
While it oozes something from the roof.
Especially because the ceiling of the pod never stops playing ads.
The air in the pod is always that, slightly dank.
That old cabin smell, that 70s wood panel.
It's just like, ugh.
With a little bit of that Disney stuff they put in the water.
Bromine.
Probably a little bit of that mixed into it.
Ugh.
Now, Elon Musk is putting satellites in space, but the problem is you still have to have the base station, right? And right now it's not mobile, although we do have the version 2, which will be mobile, which will mount to all sorts of vehicles. But what if you didn't need the base station? What if we've all got phones, right?
Oh.
What if it was just the phone?
Nokia radio technology to enable AST SpaceMobile's direct-to-cell phone connectivity from space. These are going to be satellites that are actually pretty close to Earth, which is how it works.
Would have been super useful if my parents had that 2 weeks ago.
Is it supposed to flood again this weekend?
Yep.
The flood warnings are perpetual on weather.com now.
Yeah, we've had one, even for around here. We've had a watch.
I definitely had good timing putting in the additional drain in the back. It has worked really well.
Yeah.
And we're kind of jumping the headline here, but Activision Blizzard, time for a sale.
Yeah.
Sadhorn.mp3.
So broken that they're just going to get rid of it. And unfortunately, it seems like the new buyers not interested in a lot of the projects that they've got going on right now.
World of Warcraft mobile game reportedly canceled by Blizzard after a finance dispute. They were NetEase. So NetEase was helping finance this, and they just said, all right, you know what? game canceled. But I think this is just a negotiation tactic because they still have all the assets and the game concept and blah, blah, blah. This will probably surface at some point in the future unless they're just not going to make any money from it. They probably would.
That's Overwatch was actually a canceled project that got repicked up later in the future. So.
Yeah. So NetEase probably doesn't have the IP rights to anything Warcraft, so this is basically just free money for them.
Well, NetEase runs the China versions of all those games because you can't be Blizzard Activision in China.
Yeah.
So that's the partner. That's why they're involved.
You give us money and we'll do this thing, and then you don't get very much of the money. It's like, well, we're hip to that.
And we've been talking a lot about internet service, right? And we all know that it's weird how before the pandemic there were people who were just scooting without internet service, and they're like, it's fine. But when we lock them in their homes, they're like, okay, I guess I need it.
Broadband subscriber growth slows to pre-pandemic levels. Oh, I said the word.
Pandemic's all right. Hopefully.
Do you think they're still running that filter?
I don't know.
How long before we can't put monkeypox in the title?
Soon.
Probably right now.
Yeah.
We got a story about it later, though, which will be divisive.
It's in the nonsense section.
And speaking of people who really like the pandemic timing, they seem to have gotten it really wrong. They said, you know what? Let's start on this project now. And then inevitably, when the economy falters from all of this, we'll be poised to fail.
Logitech will launch a handheld cloud gaming device in 2022. Basically, it's just a handheld controller and screen, which is going to get your stuff from Xbox or Nvidia in the cloud.
Isn't that Stadia? How did Stadia do?
Not great.
There was a headline, I didn't put it in this week, but there was a headline that said that Stadia was canceled and Google had to deny it.
No, they've got about a year left before they cancel it.
Well, maybe they've got a year at current spending habits.
Yeah.
But spending habits are changing.
U.S. gamers are spending a lot less on video games now than they did in 2021. Gone are the days of players spending $100,000 on Diablo. Wait, foreshadowing.
Part of that's probably because of the not recession, but also, is there anything good being released right now? Like, is there anything to get really excited for?
The last Starship, Krista.
Well, yeah, but you didn't even have to pay for that.
The things that get really excited about cost like $5, and they're indie games. They're not AAA titles.
I broke down and bought another game that was a lot like this last Starship that just came out. I can't remember the name of it. I only paid $12, but that was at the upper end of what I'm comfortable just sight unseen paying for an indie game. Turned out to be all right. And Microsoft is the one who wants to snap up Activision Blizzard. And of course, that is a big merger, two massive companies, and the government gets involved and they're like, is this going to be good for the consumer? And you have to lie at that point because the answer is no. And when you don't really have any real thing to defend there, you really have to make up some outlandish lies.
Microsoft claims Activision Blizzard doesn't release quote-unquote unique games. Microsoft justifies the buyout of Activision Blizzard by saying the company just doesn't release must-have games. There's nothing here. We just need the talent.
How many copies does Call of Duty sell every year?
Yeah.
Feels a little must-have to me.
Yeah. Didn't Activision also acquire some of the other game companies that also had, they've got a lot of IP rights?
Yeah. And then Blizzard got tacked onto that. I mean, it's a ball. You know what? It's like a dung beetle, right? It just keeps rolling and picking up new pieces of dung.
This is like what happened with the movie companies when they all consolidated. That wasn't great.
Yeah, look where we are with that.
That ended badly.
When's the last time you wanted to go see a movie?
Cable news networks? When cable news networks consolidated, was that good? No?
It was good if you're a politician. And of course, more fallout from the fact that Activision Blizzard is just basically giving up. They're like, we're being sold and we don't care anymore.
No more Overwatch 2 betas, Blizzard confirms.
This surprised me. I think they're releasing the PvP in October, like late October maybe. And not doing any more betas in that time? That's strange, considering how unpolished certain things are.
Well, listen, the guy that knew how to run the PvP server left, and we've only got the one intern that knows how to restart the Docker script. That's it. That's all we got.
How does she keep her hair styled like this during combat?
I don't know.
Spray glue.
Her hitbox is too small. She's supposed to be a tank.
Way to body shame her, Krista.
Listen, she needs to be thicker. I need to be able to tell in the middle of a fight who my tank is and who I should be behind.
Where's my tank at? There's a t-shirt idea. So podcasts, we have one. Unfortunately, no one has ever offered us money to be a part of it. And I don't know why that is, because it's a great podcast.
Podcast guests pay big bucks to be interviewed. Unless you're, what was it, Manny Pacquiao? How does that? Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao.
Then you have to pay him.
Yeah.
So they were talking about up to 50 grand.
Wow. That's not surprising to me. I mean, that's the way a lot of media works. Like, you made a joke about the Colbert Show earlier. Like, everybody who goes on that show almost certainly pays for it, right? So they can promote their product.
Well, he's basically like a state-run media at this point.
But I mean, that's true. Everything is marketing. It's just to sell you something else. Got to pay for the privilege.
They probably, I mean, if you're a big celebrity, you probably don't pay to go on there because he needs your name to draw viewers.
Maybe.
In this case, I think a lot of these people are selling tokens or crypto or just nonsense. Yeah. And they're like, oh, hey, I want to tell you all about it. And people are like, well, I don't really care about it, but for 50 grand, I could.
The most insidious ones are those personal wellness ones. It's like, listen, there's a darkness inside you, and that's not normal. What you need is my $500 course explaining how to deal with the darkness. And it's like, no, that's not. That's
or
not
like
right.
Smoothies or like, vitamin supplements. There's all kinds of crap like that.
I really hope their next story after this one in this sort is the one about Duo and all the stuff going on with Duo.
No, in fact, this is a block. So this is a third week in a row that we've done this kind of block because this is just story after story after story.
Google CEO tells employees that productivity and focus must improve and launches a simplicity sprint, quote unquote, to gather employee feedback on efficiency. Now, let me tell you, Google has lost its way. Like, they don't have a clue with Android. It is a mess.
And
all their apps.
Yeah, people are moving away from the big services. The search, they've poisoned it so much with the advertising. I think people are moving away from that. But as we learned last week, Mark Zuckerberg had those exact same things to say.
Yeah.
Another person with crappy services that they've ruined, and it just keeps going. And so many of these headlines.
Oracle starts job cuts in the U.S. The information. This is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Don't worry, the legal team is safe. Eventually, Oracle will only be a legal company that sues people over their patents.
No, Oracle's going to go work on the Line City. Nyom. Nyom.
And we do have a little bit of story about meme stocks coming back, but I don't know if that's going to be able to save Robinhood.
Robinhood is firing nearly a quarter of its staff because they've been found out. People understand that they are part of the problem.
And everybody else is on their business model now. And payment for order flow is going to be illegal if not already. Ooh, that's the entire business model, isn't it? But some of the smaller names are not immune to this.
SoundCloud announces layoffs up to 20% of their global workforce. Because as it turns out, the three of us could run the entirety of SoundCloud for what it is.
Also, I can't get over that we started doing a section about layoffs and then the thunder started going. I don't know if the mic will pick it up. But.
Well, I mean, like the Google story, like the whole like Duo and Meet. Like Google's doing away with Duo. Duo is now incorporated into Meet. Blah blah blah. Like you need an architect that's gonna architect things in a way that is sane, and that's just the signal to noise ratio is they're basically at parity, the signal and the noise. And so you're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to reach the consumer. You're not going to make products that people get excited about.
Now, I didn't realize that the company Bolt Mobility was co-founded by Usain Bolt.
I feel bad for him after reading this.
Well, I think it's hilarious because he's the world's fastest man. And it seems that this is the world's fastest company at running away because they've failed. And they're not even trying to get the bikes back. They're just like, nope, just, running out. Yeah. Pass the baton. Pass the baton, Usain.
Bolt Mobility has vanished, leaving its e-bikes and unanswered calls behind in several U.S. cities. So, pro tip, I guess, if there's one of these floating around your city, you can just take it out.
It's free. Well, maybe.
Well, the city said that, these companies don't have a permit to operate anymore. They've got 30 days to come get their property. Otherwise, the city's going to take it. But, hey, possession's 9/10 of the law. Sounds like it's abandoned property to me.
Who's going to come looking for it?
We should start we should definitely get our hands on one and like retrofit it into something reasonable. How cool would it be, like the town in Vermont, if they get these and just spray paint them and then open them up to make them free for everybody? And then it, turns into this wonderful, utopian, oh, we have free e-bikes in the city. Look at this.
They won't make them free.
And then one bursts into flame and
Yeah.
the town goes bankrupt from the lawsuit. Now, last week we learned that Amazon, unlike most of the big tech companies, did really, really well. Apple and Amazon, the middle of the fangs, did quite well. But even with those kinds of beautiful numbers, they took a look at what's going on around the world and they're like, no, we need to cut.
Amazon is shutting down its cloud storage service, Amazon Drive. Why? Because Amazon Drive costs Amazon more and they make less money than any of the other services for storage and everything else. So your stuff's going to evaporate if it's on Amazon Drive.
We're going to need you to move this to AWS.
Yeah.
I think they have till December. So if you like Amazon Drive, get your stuff off of it. And another unusual boon, a company that actually did well unexpectedly, was old Coinbase. Because, boy, that's been nothing but bad headlines for them, right? But
Coinbase shares soar 10% in boost from meme traders, a BlackRock crypto deal. So this is not BlackRock that I thought it was. This is like BlackRock Investments, which is a different thing.
Wait,
and they're a brick and mortar investment company.
what BlackRock are you thinking of?
I was thinking of BlackRock, the Blackwater.
No,
Yeah.
BlackRock. There is no BlackRock private military.
BlackRock private
BlackRock
soldier of fortune.
BlackRock is, what's the guy's name? Larry Fink?
Yeah.
The ESG company.
Yeah.
He said his name and the thunder got really loud.
He's the worst person in the world. I think he's worse than Soros.
Yeah.
So this is bad news for them to be in bed with BlackRock. But
What they're going to do is vampire out any value there for the billionaires in the. So yeah. If you're just a retail investor,
Sucks to suck.
you're going to lose your money probably ultimately.
and another section of recurring themes every week.
Forsage, crypto executives charged with running a $300 million Ponzi scheme.
They were just straight up lying and cheating.
Yeah. I wonder how much of this, like when we really get into this and the court cases that come from this, I wonder how much of the Ponzi scheme will be, ultimately, billionaire in the corner of the room just making things happen, benefited tremendously, but the front line people are the people that bear the brunt of the responsibility of, the scam. But all the money somehow ends up with the billionaire.
It's always to find somebody else to hold the bag.
Yeah.
That's how those work. Sure, yeah. The top of the pyramid always does quite well.
Yeah. And they get out and they start another pyramid.
Now, this is, we always talk about earnings calls when they're talking to their investors. Pay attention when CEOs and other people at companies talk to investors because that's when they're being honest. And they're being the most honest when the things that they say are pro-investor but overwhelmingly anti-consumer. This is a level of darkness.
This makes me angry.
Don't go to college right now. It's a terrible idea. But if you've already done it, this blood should just explode out of every orifice after you see this headline.
College textbook maker Pearson eyes non-fungible tokens to claim a cut of secondhand sales. So imagine, if you would, a world where a college textbook has a non-fungible token associated with it to unlock it. And when you sell it, there's a blockchain that shows that there is a chain of custody change from you to somebody else. But Pearson still gets a cut of whatever you sell the textbook for. So you buy the textbook for $300, then you sell it for $150. Pearson might take a $25 cut for ensuring that the book changes hand properly and that you didn't pirate it and whatever else.
We should send some pizzas to Pearson.
I would say the best response, if you are a college student, the best possible response to this story is yo-ho-ho and a screen text reader that converts to text.
I bought very few textbooks when I was in college because I was like, I'm not spending that kind of money.
This is also another case of history repeating itself because book publishers in the early 20th century tried to put basically click wrap agreements, license agreements on the book. It's like, by opening this book, you agree not to resell it. We had something in the U.S. called the first sale doctrine. It's like, once you sell somebody something, they can use the thing that they bought however you want. But with digital media, it's been kind of this gray area. It's like, are you buying the physical thing or are you licensing something? You got way less rights if you license it.
Is that also true of my Nintendo Switch?
When you buy a game, the click wrap agreement on the game is very similar to that of the book.
I've never bought a game.
That's interesting.
But they do tell me that I'm not allowed to do what I want with
Yeah.
that device.
Yeah.
The thunder
sorta-
again.
Sort of crazy with the whole license agreement thing and like circumventing copy protection and blah blah blah. So the publishing industry is a little bit evil here, and Pearson is one of the most evil publishing companies that there is. Maybe we can get Lena Khan involved. She seems gung ho. Maybe we should look at this. Maybe that will be more than she can chew right now.
Well, when you talk about being late to the Web3 party, this is pretty late.
It's pretty late.
It's getting to the point where I don't think we're on the upward curve anymore.
No.
But does that mean that they are late, or does it mean that they spent more time actually thinking about it? That's probably too much to hope.
Starbucks to unveil its Web3 based rewards program next month. Coffee themed NFTs and rewards for sharing stuff on social.
It's going to be part of the loyalty program.
What a dark timeline.
You buy stuff, you get NFTs. Maybe you can trade them in for coffee. We're not sure about the details.
So who cares?
This was a press release to justify funding a program inside of Starbucks. Like some executive was looking at this and like, I don't think this is a good idea. It's like, all right, let's do a press release saying that we're going to do this. See what kind of reaction we get. And then depending on if it's a good reaction, then you get your funding.
That happens a lot.
I guess. You drink a lot of coffee. How often do you do Starbucks?
Maybe once every couple of weeks.
You might get an NFT.
Yeah. And it's mostly just to have an excuse to go get the iced lemon loaf.
Is that like a cake?
What if you got an iced lemon loaf NFT?
Oh. But not actually one you can eat, just one you can look at on your phone from time to time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the pod.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you look at that and really concentrate hard while you're eating your bug loaf, you can taste a little bit of lemon. Just a little bit.
The lemon in the air is actually the disinfectant.
Pine salt.
Oh.
That's not lemon, that's pine. Well, here's a terrifying one. Man, I hate when we get these because it's like it's a constrictor.
Yep.
And we're almost dead. Almost dead.
Record labels' war on ISPs and piracies nets multiple settlements with Charter. The recording industry is so insidious and corrosive. They've been working on this for about 30 years, and it's continuous. And in the beginning, they didn't really have a lot of success. But these kinds of successes are not great because the success here is basically the recording industry is saying to an ISP, hey, we identified the subscriber as a pirate for our stuff, which maybe not. And because the ISP hasn't effectively cut them off from internet access because of piracy, the ISP is now liable. So Charter's just like, all right, we'll do a settlement. We don't care. We just, whatever.
Now, Charter can afford that. Not everybody can.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is they can't come after you personally because that is met with failure because there's this whole legal thing about like, well, how do you know it's me? An IP address cannot identify me in court. And that really hurts them. So this is just an end around. Like, can't go after you personally, but we can get you turned off.
They're so corrosive that they keep attacking it and attacking it and attacking it. And eventually they will succeed on equating an IP address with a person just because they wear you down. Like it's kind of an Overton window of reasonableness. And copyright maximalism, where it is now, is patently unreasonable. That's the thing that we need to, you're watching the show, something to keep in the back of your mind to rise up and resist because it's not reasonable.
I don't know if we should suggest that.
Life of the author plus 90 years. Meanwhile, patents are still only a 20 year. Like you invent something that's good for 20 years, but Disney enjoys 100 years plus of copyright. That's not fair.
Send Disney some pizzas. That's my new favorite euphemism for threatening someone. Send them a pizza.
You call up the local Domino's, I want these to go to Disney. And they're like, well, can you be more specific?
Just throw them over the gate at Disney World.
Now, we talked in the last episode yesterday about this company and how in the past they got on the wrong side of the old credit card companies. And it had to do with, child exploitation and stuff like that. It seemed like they found some actual evidence of that kind of thing. And they were like, you're done. But they cleaned it up and they're like, okay, we're going to do all these things, all these crazy changes to our platform. And the companies are like, yeah, we're back. But now, I guess, because we're back in the news cycle and we have to look at it again, they're like, oh, nope, we're out again.
Visa and Mastercard suspend payments for ad purchases on Pornhub, MindGeek, and etc. amid the controversy. And they're basically the only online payment processors. Without them, you're stuck unless you want to do crypto. Crypto's kind of on the downswing,
So Visa is being sued here by a person who claims that they can prove that either they were part of this or maybe their children or whatever, but they're suing Visa saying you knew that this was happening.
and there's a win.
What do you mean there's a win?
The judge, this is the same judge that said, yeah, seems reasonable based on the evidence.
But the court, they hadn't settled the case. They said the case can go forward.
Yeah.
So this is Visa's, damage
Knee-jerk
control
response, yeah. So it's not just going to be these companies that are affected by this. Visa and Mastercard are going to stop processing payments for a lot of stuff. This is just the beginning. They're reviewing right now. They probably hired a bunch of people to just go through thousands and thousands of companies and find anything remotely objectionable.
Isn't it crazy how it's reprehensible, but this one thing is used to control so much online?
Yeah.
Because it's the ultimate, once I put this in my argument, you can't fight back.
Yeah.
And the meme stocks are still out there. I suppose that, now that we're not in a recession,
Thank goodness.
it's safe to get back in the stock market.
Reuters reports newly minted meme stock darling AMTD slides after an eye-popping surge. No.
It was 60,000%.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. There's no chance
No.
the stock stays at that level. If it hasn't already come back down to earth, my God, sell.
By the time they see this, it's probably in the crater already.
And moving on to social media, we are getting into the metaverse of social media. But as we've said so many times, the metaverse doesn't really exist. There's a couple of little apps that aren't that great, and they're shutting them down one by one because no one cares.
Tinder steps back from metaverse dating plans as business falters. The CEO is also leaving after less than a year. There's another application that can be run by 3 people without a lot of headache, thanks to cloud services.
The support would be
Yeah.
Annoying.
a real nightmare.
You just go with the Google model of support.
There is no support.
Yeah, but then some girl gets assaulted. And there's a lot of headaches.
Is that Tinder's fault necessarily? Like,
Look at the stories we just did, Krista. California's going to let you sue the gun manufacturers, which means the car manufacturers are next. There's a never-ending blame game that's going on in the world right now. And this, you know what? Google, what are you doing?
See also the simplicity and focus argument from before?
Imagine you're reading the headline about like Google's about to lay you off, and they're telling you have to be a lot more productive. And then you see this, and you're like, what?
Google Meet meets Duo Meet with Meet in Duo, but Duo isn't going into Meet.
ugh, what?
Google's combined messaging future starts today, and bravo The Verge for such an amazing headline.
We try really hard with our headlines, like the video titles, and like I don't think we're gonna beat that.
That's an accurate headline, and this is again because like Google doesn't understand why that its messaging platform is not as successful as iMessage, and it's apparently because no one inside Google actually earnestly uses iMessage.
Now, here's a question, right? Because most hospitals have a robust IT division. They probably have a web department that only works on there. So it's probably an in-house team, right? They probably don't farm that out too much, especially for the internal parts. And do you think that anybody sent an email and flagged it as urgent and said, hey guys, you're putting tracking pixels on medical data?
I feel certain that the tech people would have raised that.
That's a tracking pixel. The word tracking is in the name. Medical data. Now, day one, they probably told you you're not allowed to track medical data.
Meta sued for violating patient privacy with data tracking tool.
That's the Facebook pixel.
You think maybe it was the agency? The agency's like, we really need to track this on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
Many tracking pixels get added all the time because they need this other new one.
Why does the hospital need a marketing team? That seems weird.
And it's on the patient portal login. So it's not about advertising to them. You've got them at that point.
Yeah.
They're in the system.
Is it just to see how much that tool gets used? But like, surely you can see that when they log in.
Why am I constantly getting the Facebook ad? Feeling irregular?
I think it's just to sell data. Yeah, it's astonishing.
Yeah, there was probably somebody inside the hospital that said that we can do an end run around HIPAA by making people, use the website, and because they're volunteering their own information from using the website from the pixel, they're technically, that transaction happens outside the hospital. And it's like, well, I'm not sure that's how that works.
Shouldn't a transaction outside the hospital raise another flag? Shouldn't we stay away from that? And if you're wondering why they want that data, I mean, come on. At this point, we've seen so many examples of it, but it's because they can do stuff like this.
What 21 billion Facebook friendships say about the economic ladder in the U.S. Basically, if you're not friends with people that are wealthier than you are, you will not become more wealthy.
What's the friend version of gold digger? Social prospector?
Socialite.
I mean, that's kind of true. There's definitely, it's definitely been the case that sometimes it's like, oh, I want to, go work for wherever, and oh, it's a venture capitalist, and it's like, oh, I want to bring my entire team, and it's like, great, $1 million salaries for everybody, and it's like, it's rare, but it happens.
I'm just thinking even like basic stuff like, if you have friends who are into investing or are smart with their money, if you talk about that with them, you pick up stuff that you wouldn't normally.
Yeah.
Well,
like, don't invest in crypto.
yeah, but you would have looked really dumb for a while there.
Yeah.
Meta, if you recall, they had the big showdown with news publishers, especially in Australia. They actually threatened to leave the country over that kind of thing. But then eventually they were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay all the publishers a certain amount of money per year, and we're going to do that for 2 years. Well, that was 2 years ago.
Scoop. Meta officially cuts funding for U.S. news publishers. The press release on this basically said, well, this was voluntary anyway, and we're having some financial difficulty, so we're not paying for news anymore. And if you want us to not run news at all, fine.
And in fact, they caught a lot of flack over the news thing, the whole Trump thing.
Yeah.
And they have moved all the news out of the main tab onto the news tab, apparently.
And I bet no one clicks that.
Exactly. The engagement just fell off a cliff when that happened.
Weird.
And so they're like, you know what? People don't care about that news. And plus, we saw the headlines, no one trusts it. What was it, like 15% trust in that stuff? Of course you don't trust it. It's all lies. So why pay for it?
And then Gizmodo reports.
And sometimes in other countries, it's not just news that causes problems. How many times have we seen this at this point?
A dozen times.
It's got to be at least, yeah.
Gizmodo says that Facebook approved pro-genocide ads in Kenya after claiming to foster safe and secure elections. They even got a quote from somebody at Facebook that's like, no, we take Kenyan elections just as secure as, just as seriously as U.S. elections. And then it's like, can you explain this ad? No response.
And they had just done like a big public celebration about it's like, Facebook loves Kenya and we're doing good. And
Cake in the conference room.
Yeah, we have the person here who, whenever you call him, he's going to take your calls in case anything bad goes up. And then the next day, they sold an ad that was basically like, let's kill all these people.
And that was reviewed by somebody on site in Kenya. And they're like, no, I don't see a problem with this. It's like,
yes, we should kill all these people. And as much as people seem to be turning on it and saying, we don't want this, it doesn't stop.
No.
They just keep trying to force it down our throats.
Meta is expanding its NFT support on Instagram to 100 countries. People can sell their Instagram art and make money because it'll be an NFT.
The mistake that these developers are thinking is because they're into NFTs and crypto is that everyone is into NFTs. It's a classic marketing mistake.
There's a crypto bro behind every blade of grass.
Yeah, pretty much. Probably at those companies, absolutely.
They never touch grass. What are you talking about? And I would say that this is another great example of a press release
100%
that has been released as a news story. Because you remember last week's
this
headline.
was paid for.
Last week's headline was much different than, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago when we found out that there is in fact someone in the Communist Party who has access to TikTok's back end.
The headline from The Guardian is TikTok refused to host disguised account for Chinese government. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of a news article that is not, in fact, a news article at all. This is 100%
puff piece.
It's not even what it purports to be. Like, this is this is designed to give you confidence in TikTok, but it like none of this really happened. Like somebody just sat down and wrote this and emailed it to somebody.
What they claim is that someone came to them and from China and said, listen, we want to put some stuff on TikTok and we're with the Chinese government, but we would like to pretend that we're not with the Chinese government. And it won't be anything really crazy. It'll just be some nice fluff pieces. And TikTok said no to that. And then whoever interviewed them or was listening to this from The Guardian or whoever broke this at first didn't say, yeah, but what about that headline from 2 weeks ago when you said that you did have people in China who were reading
And then
everything?
TikTok was like, here's $20,000.
They turned over the water pitcher and ran out of the room.
While screeching.
But this is one example. So how many times has this happened? Have they always said no?
Probably not.
I don't think this really even happened. Like,
Yeah.
there's no details here. It's
This
like,
is
look at
TikTok
the scandal.
fanfic.
Yeah, it is 100% fanfic.
And you can always say that it's like, oh, it would happen, but we can't tell you who they are because they'd be in trouble in
So
China.
it's a self-insert fanfic too, because they're like, look how heroic I am. I said no to China. It's the worst kind of fanfic.
It's like, can we let them do it and see what they're going to post so we can expose it? Like, would that be a thing? I mean, if they're being honest about it, why would they even need to be honest about it? Like, why couldn't the Chinese government person just show up and...
Yeah, my question is, why does China ask permission to do that? Why wouldn't they just make the account and start circulating the content?
The quotes are pretty crazy. Like if you were in that kind of work, I don't think you would ever be that frank about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Coordinated inauthentic behavior.
The way that TikTok operates is that it's coordinated inauthentic behavior. Like it's content disguised or ads disguised as content. It's their whole business model.
The most successful content creators, like they're not recording their everyday normal behavior. They're doing it for engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we found out they're going to all these sites and doing the dance 50 times to get it perfectly.
Yeah, that's
correct.
that sounds inauthentic to me.
There's videos on TikTok too where it's like an influencer or a young person goes to like an office and they're like, I work for like LinkedIn or I work for TikTok and here's our office. Isn't it great? And then they like hop around and pretend to be really excited. And it's an ad. It's an ad. That's all it is.
I was working on our storage server for our TikTok. And it was like, here's our old storage server, and here's our new one. And that is at least 50% authentic. But yeah, it was hamming it up.
It's made for TikTok because that's the world we live in. We just make things for algorithms and not for people.
And as we will learn on Friday, TikTok is actually more fake than you even realize.
What a good...
Stay tuned for Friday.
What a good lead in. All right. Bye.